Blog Talk Radio.
Hey guys, this is Those Guys with your host Matt Marrero along with your other host.
Satish Ram. Good evening.
And I think we're going to have another set of short episodes, Satish. Like a short episode runtime for us because, I mean, you look at these two episodes and I like them, right? But I do have a feeling
when we like things.
Yeah, well, it's not even that we like them.
We need to start podcasting on stuff we don't like
we always
WWE
we
Monday
have.
Night Raw, because otherwise...
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. I love that you take pot shots at things that you didn't even hate. Like, we've gotten better with it. Stop it.
No,
we have to save it for... You sound like the boy who cried wolf. We have to save it for when we...
They suspended their black superhero during Black History Month.
Based on something that doesn't have any reason to suspend him for. Come on, Satish. Wait, what? Was it directed?
But on a serious note, we talk about this a lot, but when we like things and there isn't anything substantial in terms of, my God, this goes by really quickly. So this might be,
the latter.
What, half
it's the
hour?
latter more than the... it's the latter more than the former. Because usually it's, we like it so much it's hard to, take it down, like not even take it down a peg, but just kind of like, dissect it because, man, it was so great. But we were able to do that with Gravity Falls just last night. Although, it's funny. We're recording this. You're not going to see it. Not going to hear it right after the Gravity Falls podcast.
Correct, yeah.
But anyway.
But in terms of where we are in real life, real time right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, so this was Back to the Barn and Too Far. And, again, we got back-to-back Peridot episodes in a way.
Which is
here
good.
We are now developing a new character in a way because we need to find out who Peridot is. And Back to the Barn was Peridot Pearl-ish, and then we got Peridot Amethyst, which was kind of formulaic in a way. Like, I don't know if you would agree with this, but, like, I think for certain animes there's a generic formula of, like, character gets episode. Like, I know this happens in Super Sentai a lot, right? Like, not even over the span of, let's say, like a 50-episode thing, there'll be, like, let's say, 5 episodes dedicated to an arc for this character, 5 for, et cetera, et cetera. So,
of course,
this feels like that in a way where it's like, okay, so Peridot plus Pearl, and then Peridot plus Amethyst, and they're likable episodes, as most of these shows' episodes are, but that's what it is. Like, it's the formula of interaction, clash, happy ending.
Yes, of course. And, it's something that we've seen. It's interesting because, excuse me, a lot of the time we talk about things being formulaic in a certain way and we can see it coming. Again, as we usually say, not that it's a problem in this case, because, of course, you saw it. You see it laid out for you, but in no way is it just, and that's why I decided to stop watching Steven Universe.
Right, exactly. A lot of wrestling is formulaic, but we still podcast about it, and some of it comes out very positively, where it's like, hey, we like a good underdog story. They've done so many of them, but it's okay, So you look at something like this, and this is good formula, I think, because it makes sense. It allows us to appreciate Peridot more because it seems like she's going to be around to be nice. So,
I mean, this is, these episodes, we've turned Peridot clearly on the side of the Crystal Gems. It is an uneasy alliance, but, clearly we've turned her on the side of the Crystal Gems. But what matters is she's not just immediately happy-go-lucky nice. Again, it's an uneasy alliance. It's not just happy-go-lucky.
And
she's very happy to be there.
Sense. Because not only is it still an enemy becoming a friend in a way, but also the fact, as was, I guess, displayed really well within these 2 episodes, Peridot is a complete stranger to their culture. And as a socio student, it's sort of amazing to appreciate the idea of you're watching Peridot be socialized. You're watching Peridot be introduced to the customs of Earth and what the Crystal Gems have created. And mind you, this is just a Crystal Gem thing. There's only Pearl, Garnet, Amethyst, and Steven. Yes. But it's their set of rules, their society. And Peridot living for hundreds of years, thousands perhaps, if they detail that correctly, I don't know, in another society has to adjust. And this adjustment is very difficult, and it's covered a lot in sociology, the idea of, like, if you took me and put me back home in Guyana to live permanently, there would be a lot of adjustments I'd have to make in terms of speech patterns, in terms of the facilities available to me, in terms of what's appropriate and what's not, compared to living here in New York.
I thought you were gonna, for some reason. If anyone doesn't know wrestling, there's always the quote unquote cheap pop, the idea of mentioning the name of the town that you're in, to make it seem as if it's just like, yeah, like, isn't it great that we're here? So literally, just instead of, so you're sitting there, you're like, oh yeah, because right now I'm here in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah,
Queens,
just all my Brooklynites out there, and we get canned applause. If we become famous, I want canned applause. Like, I want to be able to do that for situations.
We don't have to. We can still have canned applause. Although you're going to hate me, because what I'll do is I'll get I'll get clips of just cans hitting each other. You're like, what the fuck is that? It's canned applause.
What's the sound of one can clapping? But, sorry. But no. So back to the
You canned, Claude.
By the way, one of my favorite lines in Too Far was, I could call her a lot of things. 2 things. She's 2 Claudes walking around like 1 Claude. And that got me laughing. I don't know why, but it was just the idea of like, 2 Claudes, 1 Claude. I'm like, God damn it. You sound like Mandark or something, and it made me laugh really hard.
Yeah, I think that's why. There's definitely some Mandark vibes coming from Perry.
Like, it's not,
by the way, Perry, that's another thing.
In terms of the dialogue and stuff, it reminds me of like Mandark in a comical sense for some reason.
Yeah.
But so Back to the Barn was remind me, this was the Pearl Peridot one where they're working on the drill, right?
Correct.
Okay. I think one of my favorite parts about this episode was the puppet that Steven was fixated on as the cluster, because not only did
which was clearly based on Alien, by the way.
Yes, and like, so not only did it come out in the beginning as like, but later on, the ending scene kills me every time. Just this, maybe now we can defeat the cluster. Oh, you think you can defeat me? No! And it's like, and it just, the idea of like, that's so accurate, because that's the kind of crap I would do to myself as a kid in terms of amusing myself. But having it on camera is just really funny. The idea of like, right, he's a kid and he has thoughts like that, and he just attacked himself with his own sock puppet.
I know, it's beautiful. Yeah, no, it's...
It's the same thing with the giant robots. Like when he had the moment. Just
oh,
like,
God, that moment was beautiful.
You should build robots. And I was like, right. He's like 12, 13. The coolest thing is like
10, 11, yeah. It's just great.
I don't even know how old he is at this point, honestly. I'm so, because like, but he's young enough that it makes sense, and he'll sit there and be like, give me giant robots.
Yeah. Oh, my God. But, those were, so I do enjoy their interactions. Again, like I said earlier, it's a great, you need these 2 episodes here just to show, like, hey, she needs to get accustomed to Earth, and not just Earth, but these characters, right, these people surrounding her, because I'm sure she's very much used to just taking orders and not really having much of an opinion. So she's able to just be potentially like every other Peridot, So it's interesting that, we get to see her interact with, we get to see her, not just her, by the way, her rank being a certified kindergartner, interact with Pearl, at least, back to the barnyard. No, that's not
back
the
to
name.
You're good. Back to the barn.
That's not the name, but you know what I said, right?
Yeah, you're thinking of the Nickelodeon
goddamn Ashton
television
Kutcher
show.
No, the movie that turned into the hit television show. It was a movie.
It turned into the hit or miss television show. But
thank you. Like our hit or miss podcast. Anyway, so no, we're back to the barn. So we have Peridot. Yes, we've come full
our hit or miss podcast on our hit or miss podcast. Wow, where has the time gone? But
anyway,
no,
seriously.
So back to the barn. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, having Peridot interact with Pearl, it's so interesting because now also we don't just get background on Peridot, we also get background on Pearl because, hey, we see that, yes, of course we had to assume, there's obviously other Pearls, but just this idea of, the Pearls are essentially slave workers, or at the very least workers, indentured servants, whatever phrase you would like to use. You being anyone. But what that means is that you can see why Pearl has treated herself this way when it comes to her relationship with Rose. Even though she taught herself how to fight, something that Pearls don't seem capable of doing, really. Just this idea that no matter what, she was made to protect Rose. Isn't that interesting? Like, even though you you break out of that, it still kind of makes sense. Like, oh wow, that's why she treats herself this way. We thought, now mind you, we're not saying it's not, it can't be due to issues based on self-worth. Of course they are, but just also the fact that this is what she was told. This is what you are. This is who you are. You are this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even though she breaks out of that, there's still little bits of it here and there.
Yeah, and I have to be honest, part of what is cool about is what Stephen mentions towards the end, the idea of, like, if pearls are as common as you say, which we, I guess, know now because we have to trust Peridot, and, and Pearl's reaction to it as well. Pearl is quite extraordinary in that sense. Like, this is one of the few times that I think she got painted in a very likable and respectable situation. Because
I think next to Peridot, it's just like, wow, Pearl seems so sophisticated and knowledgeable about Earth culture.
Right, but even that, it's just, the idea of, I've criticized Pearl as a character a lot in a good way. Like, they wrote her to be a certain way, and I've criticized that character. But she comes across here as somebody who worked really hard to be the Pearl that she is now. Because she did have to basically learn all of this tech stuff on her own, all of this in terms of what she's able to do. And she did teach herself to fight. So, because it's not like pearls were meant to be soldiers based on Peridot's description. They were meant to look pretty. So they were accessories, if nothing more, compared to Amethyst was described as a loyal soldier, rather. So, like, Pearl's not a soldier. So the fact that she's a capable warrior, was in the war, and has so much knowledge about machinery. It's
so intriguing.
It's kind of a moment where you also think about, like, wow, they've had thousands of years. So she has had thousands of years to put that together. But I don't think that makes it any less, I guess,
special
of an achievement. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. She did. It's very interesting. So there's that to look at and go, wow, this character is, I guess, pretty cool, pretty hip, man. No, she's not cool or hip. She's definitely, she works hard. It's not just like she's just some, random character that had, because you think of her, because we've seen them already develop in certain ways, you just thought, oh yeah, you assumed that she was a foot soldier, right? I think that's what we assumed, that she was a foot soldier, but she clearly wasn't. However, she was used as, I guess, fodder, if you will, in terms of just how many of them there are, and, just a bunch of pearls, whatever. But it wasn't for fighting, which I think, again, as you mentioned, shows how much she's accomplished, and is also just very intriguing no matter how many times you think about it, at least in my opinion, because, like, wow, she taught herself to do all of that crap. That's a lot of stuff.
So, it's really impressive when you think about it.
It is.
The actual rundown of the episode, the mecha fights and stuff.
Yeah. The mecha challenges were very, they were very much a bit like, I guess, Dr. Slump, if you will. Now, of course, it's not as if I'm going to say that challenges never happened in any other thing that isn't a manga. But, no, it was only funny because it felt like nonsensical challenges that would be in a gag manga, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and
I don't know
the way some of it turned out. I mean, you had the tree winning that one. And you had the art one being subjective, which it was just really fun to me the way they threw that in. The idea of, like, well, the tree gets that one, and art is subjective. And I laughed really hard.
Because it's true, but...
it's just like, all right, Steven's under, he gets what's going on. He's down with it. And I like in general, what they built, because, like, in terms of what they put together, you have Peridot designing this, like, battle machine, essentially. Like, protect Peridot and create, like, this battle machine. And Pearl's is more elegant and, in a way,
and taller.
And taller, so she won that. But I think it was interesting how, in a way, they tried to reflect themselves in... Of
course,
like,
in the robots, yes.
Efficient, yeah, but so it made sense to me for some reason that that's the way the robots came out.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun, way to create the robots. Let's just mirror themselves. So it's just, this one is very, like top heavy but tiny. Just so tiny.
By the way, line in the episode I laughed at because of you. Steven was like, giant robots shouldn't fight. And I sat there and I'm like, Matt would contest actually against that, I think.
That's exactly what I said.
Stop, giant robots shouldn't fight. And I'm like, that one's going to hit Matt. I don't think he's going to like that.
My exact quote, when I didn't write this down, I just said it out loud. That's wrong. The exact opposite.
See?
Yeah, it was not correct.
You understood?
No. That was beautiful. Giant robots shouldn't fight. Speak for yourself, plebeian. Right? Like just as if I'm sitting back with just some fine wine and some Big O. Just, or rather G Gundam. Actually, no, Big O fought robots-ish. I think.
Did they?
Yeah, no, G Gundam. Just,
okay.
What was it? G Gundam, I think, was like 93. Good year. When was G Gundam? G Gundam was, let's see, G Gundam. We're doing this live on the air. G Gundam was, it was actually 94. Down. Still a good year. I was 2. And not drinking wine. But anyway.
There we go. Now we figured that one out. But yeah, no,
yes.
That was funny to me. But in general, I really like the whole little montage sequence because, they're both talented at what they're doing there.
Yeah.
And they created robots that are functional, and then we got a mecha fight.
Everything worked out for the better.
Except Steven doesn't. I find it funny that Steven didn't want the giant robots to fight, though.
Which is interesting. I mean, because he's such a freaking pacifist that it's just so funny. It's just, I love giant robots. They're going to fight. No! Like, that fits Steven's character so well, no matter what he's seen.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want them to fight.
I feel like part of it also is that the idea that we're supposed to be on the same team. So it's like, no.
Yes.
It's like the idea of, like, someone in like, Transformers turning on, like, a teammate or something. And
yes.
He's just sitting there like, no, this can only lead to bad things.
Mm-hmm.
But that was funny to me. It was, and it was very true to the Steven character.
Of course. So that happens, right? So we have Pearl and Peridot, understanding each other a bit more, and Peridot essentially saying, my bad. And boom. Oh, another thing I think I love, before we move on to the next episode, I want to say I really enjoy the idea of but the rules say that I won. Welcome to Earth.
Yeah, it's it's the sociology idea of we have different rules here, and if you want to fit in, which is generally the desire, you got to learn the new rules. And here it's just, you won the fight, but it's the idea of you were an ass about it, one, and you hurt, you were disrespectful. So you really won.
I looked at it more like.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I'm sorry, but because I know where you're going. I looked at it more like, sometimes the rules don't matter here. As in, the idea of, no, I was promised this. That is how it was supposed to go down. It's just Earth isn't fair.
Yeah, no, actually, I do. I agree with that. I do, because it's just
Earth
the idea of
fair.
it's not as cut and dry and black and white as you think it is. Just because you won doesn't mean you won. Ironically, I think the apology after was more important for her. And
of course, both sides.
Also in Too Far, I really love the whole analogy of how do you feel big, So that compared to this, it was done well, and I like that she went out of her way to apologize in the sense of look, you're really good, and it is really impressive that you're really good because that's not what you were made for, and I'm going to respect you for that.
Yes, most definitely. So one thing I want to mention, now we move on to Too Far, right?
Yeah.
And talking about Too Far, it was so interesting because we apparently, we have Peridot start to learn what humor is. And that's a strange thing. Because she learns what humor is and then just goes off the rail thinking, when I tell the truth, then people find this funny. While, of course, we have, who, Amethyst is not in the right exactly either, just laughing at a foreigner with her accent. So, with her strange, funny Spanish words. So, it was strange because, on both ends, they weren't necessarily right. But, again, we know that Peridot doesn't understand what's going on, so she just goes off the rails and just starts saying how how Amethyst was different and wasn't the way she was supposed to be, which of course, brings back those feelings Amethyst had a while ago. Because again, this series, and hopefully many, really do mirror life in the sense that, people, you get over something in an episode, but it would frankly be too much of a television show, too much out of touch with reality if Amethyst just goes, okay, great, now I don't have any more issues with the way I look or who I am because we had 3 episodes talking about it, yay. Like, no, it's not how it works.
Because it's not like I don't like my nose, which could be a very significant thing,
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like my entire existence is defective because that's what I've been told and that's how I've been brought up. And it was really well written, this episode, because first off you had a little freedom to play around with Peridot's vocabulary, and I liked that in the beginning, the idea of like visual spears or stuff like that, because it was kind of amusing.
Of course.
To hear someone describe that. It's the idea of like, you hear someone talk in, let's say, Old English, and it's funny to you because we're used to
you
hearing...
saw Old English rather than different language.
Yeah, because like in a different... if you don't know any language at all, like any Spanish at all, Matt, right?
Right.
And I say to you, like, I'm looking at a cat, and I say gato. I don't think that's funny because it doesn't make sense to you, but the idea of, like, if I called it, like furry tiger or something.
Right, you would
think
enough.
It's funny because as a point of reference, the idea is, like, those are eyes, not, like, visual spears, but, like, it makes sense. They are spherical, and you use them to see. So, like, she has a grasp on the language. She just uses a different, like, vernacular, like a different vocabulary bank than you do. But she knows what she's saying, and we know what she's saying. The idea of, like, gravity connectors or something like that.
Right.
Like, you realize, your feet keep you to the ground, which gives you gravity, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I get you.
So I think it was interesting because, like, I get why it's funny. I mean, it's weird because in my head I'm like, that is odd because I spent a lot of time struggling with dialect. So in a way, it almost seems like you're making fun of her, and so that was weird for me.
But that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it definitely was some of that, which is why I think,
So it was weird because, like, the idea of, like, it's funny in a way, and I get it. I do understand why I think it's amusing, and it's also part of that. It's weird because what I think it edges into is something you and I both criticize, like Big Bang Theory humor.
You mean, yes, the idea of, like, you're trying to make...
We should laugh because she said, like, visual spear. It's like, but that's what her word for eyes is. So it's
that's
like
the problem with Steven Universe. With Steven Universe, they try to make a show where they think that gems are watching and laughing along with it, but really we're just laughing at the gems.
Perry, you're a real gem. Yes, I am a gem.
I'm happy I was able to make that crossover.
But
Thank you so much.
Okay, so, like, jokes, you understand what I mean, right? What I'm saying
of course.
there, like,
yeah.
So it's weird because it does feel like we're supposed to laugh at the vernacular that we're not aware of, and so that's weird. But I feel like it's written that way because they're trying to be realistic with the exchanges.
Yeah. Of course.
And I get it because I think also the idea is that, Steven even realized, like, or he felt that Amethyst was going a little too far when she kept going on about the nerd bit.
Which makes sense,
like,
because, again, you need that there.
You're a nerd. And it's like, now you're making fun of her for being a nerd, or it's more clear to me that you're doing that, because you think she's a nerd, and I don't know if I feel comfortable with that. Because it feels like you're mocking her for her existence.
Exactly.
And I was glad that Steven caught on to that, because it feels like that whole scenario was, this was amusing at first because the words are funny, but now I think that it's getting a little bit too much because...
And that's the point, I mean, at first it was a little weird because it just wasn't as overt. So, but, I mean, that's just the point of it all, I think. Like, hey, you're kind of making fun of, certain, like, this is why it's good they have a show like this to actually kind of talk about that because, you could have another show just had it go on and just, Peridot, you were wrong because you fought back or because you didn't realize what you said, but thank goodness that we have awesome Amethyst here being cool. It's like, no!
Right, Amethyst had flaws in that little scenario too. Like she kind of that scenario was led up to by the freedom of her discussion, and the freedom of her. Like, I guess everything's funny. Peridot's trying to understand humor because obviously this is a foreign concept to her, and it's hard because the way she detailed it, she's like, it's funny because in her head it's like I'm not hitting a soft spot. She doesn't realize that. She feels like Amethyst is okay with this. She's just like, you're small. You know this. You're defective. Ha-ha. You know that you're not who you are, and that's funny. And it's like, but you're, and her statement at the end, just like, hey, you can do anything a normal quartz can do, was a veiled compliment. The idea of you're still capable. Don't feel bad, But the idea that behind it was so brutally written out, calling her defective and saying you're not normal or you stayed in the ground too long, and that was hurtful. I felt that hit, and I was like, because you.
That's how I feel
about,
sometimes.
Oh, I love.
I'm short. I feel like I stayed in the ground too long.
That's okay. You're still very capable. You're just as good as any other podcaster.
I thought you said as any other, Matt. I was like, fair enough.
No, because Matt Damon's a really, really good actor, and I love him. But
wow, so I'm not as capable as any other Matt. I see.
In that regard, in that regard, Matt Damon's a really, really special figure for me, and
I'm gonna find another Satish.
I'm
not gonna love him more than you, but I will say that he is. You can't be as capable as any Satish.
I at this moment in time, I'm not. There are more successful, there are physicist Satishes, and there are Satishes that have directed Indian movies, and obviously I'm at this moment not, it's not a forecast for the future. It's a current statement of where we are.
Nobody cares about your made-up people. He's gonna send me the articles just shutting me down. It's gonna be great.
I'm going to, log on to those guys' Facebook and post articles about people.
Please don't. So much confusion. So much confusion.
Oh, come on. Don't you think they want to know? All 70-something of the people who like us on Facebook, thank you very much. That's more than I thought it would be.
Do you think all 70 of them are listening to this exact podcast?
No.
Also, you're going to do it out of order, and you're going to post them pre-podcast, and everyone's going to be confused.
I have to wait for this to be posted then.
You do. You really do.
Is this being pre-recorded, if we get 10 more likes by the time between now and when you post this, it's going to seem really amusing to me.
Oh, I'm really hoping. Please, 10 more likes. I might make 10 fake accounts just to spite you. Please. Over that Matt Damon comment.
Go ahead. Just switch the first letter of your last name and the first letter of your first name. You'll be fine.
Yeah, no one will ever find Matt Morero. Anyway, moving on.
How many British Sam jokes have we made on air, or have we not made that joke on air? Because I know we've made it in person.
We may have made one joke on air.
Okay.
Maybe. British.
But
anyway, so
swinging it back to
the whole Steven Universe thing that we're podcasting about. I love that Peridot was tied to a fence, like A-Dog.
For the record, I don't know why, but perhaps my second favorite line in the episode was, "I blame the cows."
Definitely, I blame the cows.
It was just a good one-liner because she's sitting there chewing on wheat and just
chilling out.
I blame the cows, and I'm like, my God, what?
I mean, she's so calm and collected. I think it's just after that whole blow up, it's just
two clods.
Yeah.
And she's trying to be one clod. She's not even fighting.
Anyway.
Clods. Clods everywhere. Was that this episode? Running out of ways to say clods?
Mm-hmm.
I love that at the beginning. Clods, running out of ways to say clods. And I was like, God damn it.
Oh, my God. Anyway, so here we are at the end of the episode. I'm kidding. No, we're not. Not yet.
I was like, what? It's only...
No. We're close, though.
Yes,
anyway,
we're finishing this
we would like to tell everyone thank you. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, no, but seriously, it was great to see the two of them, Amethyst and Peridot make up, and, because it's kind of like, hey, we need this quick. It's again, every once in a while we can get a very long, drawn out, but, I feel like there are other shows that would have just taken this to the max and would have just drawn it out so long that, and I know I always complain about this compared to other shows, like, oh yeah, thank goodness this show didn't do that, as if I'm just like throwing a lot of negativity everywhere. But it's just like, no, there are a lot of shows that I enjoy. It's just that there are certain shows that I just can't take this over drawn out drama for that long. So I'm really happy that it's just, hey, 1 week we get this thing, wrap it up, and 11 minutes no less. Next week we get this thing, wrap it up. Boom, we're good. Okay, guys, we're good.
No, it worked out in a way because what was in the apology I thought was interestingly written, and the reason I say that is because you have the tone that she uses for Amethyst, and it seems like the way she acts with Amethyst, in contrast to the way that she acts with Pearl, right? I feel like it's that part of her homeworld stuff hasn't completely been worked out of her, because the idea of you've got the Pearl apology, and it was an acknowledgement of how good she was, right? And that was nice. I respect you. Meanwhile, you've got the Amethyst episode, and she says, if I've made a huge mistake. I don't know if it's a sign of them trying to say, oh, she matured from that incident to be more caring, or the idea of, she really looks at Amethyst as the top gem. So she feels like she needs a more comprehensive and detailed apology, because Amethyst is the best gem, so she needs to do that, and she risked her life in a way to save Amethyst. So it's weird, because it could be also a combination of they got along better because she felt more attached to Amethyst. So I don't necessarily know, but I find that the tones of the apologies, it felt like Amethyst's was more detailed and emotional and in depth.
Which was nice. I think she hurt her more than she did Pearl, in a way.
Mm-hmm. But
or at least there's more.
She basically called, arguably you could say that, or at least she realizes that she hurt Amethyst more, because she calls Pearl a slave, but I think Pearl is more composed in being aware of what other pearls were. The idea of other pearls were slaves or accessories. I am not that.
Of course.
Right?
Yes.
Compared to Amethyst, who it's no, not amethysts are defective. You specifically are defective.
Right,
and I guess I could understand why that hits a little harder, but I thought the tones of the apologies were important to discuss.
Yeah, no, they definitely were. But so we have a lot of fun stuff coming up in terms of, Steven Universe podcasts, because, you look at what's coming up as episodes, we are behind, obviously. So we had a Stephen Baum come out, so we are going to tackle that, and it's so interesting because, we are going to go nuts on that. We are. We might even have a little Stephen Baum of our own. Maybe.
I like that. The one thing I want to take away before I finish talking about this episode, and you can do your wrap-up.
Okay.
Because I want to get your opinion on it, too. What was interesting is that this was the first time we were alerted to the idea of Amethyst as a gem, or a quartz, being the highest ranking out of the group. Because Garnet,
is interesting.
It's funny, Garnet as being a fusion is a relative unknown to Peridot. So it's not like there's a set of Garnets. So she doesn't fit into the hierarchy of, Pearl was an accessory according to her. Steven is hybrid, so she doesn't really. So Amethyst is the best. As Peridot said, according to Peridot, you're the only real gem here, because Pearl was considered a slave, which is harsh, but that Garnet's a fusion, so she doesn't, and Steven's a hybrid. So the whole confusion there is that the idea, she looks at Amethyst as the purest, the actual leader there. And it feels like a dirty, foreshadowing thing for the future. Will this come up? Will something happen? And one of the reasons I mentioned that is because the episode names were leaked. And
let's not talk about them. We don't want to spoil anyone, but it's potential.
No, they were leaked, way back, before the time of this episode. And
but I don't know what they are. And if I don't know, that means that everyone else probably knows. Yeah. But still.
No, just one of them was called Steven versus Amethyst.
What the thing is, though, is with this show, it can be so lighthearted.
No, that's the thing. So it's interesting, but because there's nothing in the episode names, and this is now being clear without mentioning any other names, that implies, like, Steven versus Amethyst is a war between Steven and Amethyst. As you said, it could very easily be a lighthearted, like, we're having a pie-eating contest. But I guess in my head it's something very intriguing because, like, I do feel like that line is going to be very significant in the future. And that's saying that, like, knowing where we are now in the series, it has not come up again. So, you know, it's not like I'm sitting here like, hey, it happened and I'm just trying to sound smart for people who are watching this chronologically. No, even where we are now, it hasn't come back up. But I have a feeling it will.
Okay, fair enough. So we would like to thank everyone for listening in. We love that you guys listen in, all 70-plus of you, and more, maybe, depending.
I mean, we do.
God knows.
We get some numbers on the archives, and thank you for that, anyone who actually takes the time to listen for any amount of time. Thank you.
And anyone who doesn't take the time to listen in, then you're listening now? What? No, that's going against what I just said, though, so you are listening.
So, out there who aren't listening, it's like, you aren't listening. So I have nothing to say to you. Go on with your day or night.
You have a nice time. Anyways, so thank you all for listening in. As always, going to mention, we have our merchandise, cafepress.com/TGOTR merchandise that you can find all of our stuff related to our podcasts, as well as our Let's Plays on there as well. Our Let's Plays, by the way, being, we have Those Guys Play, where you and I, Satish, have played a multitude of different games on Those Guys Play Season 1 and Season 2, which at this point should already be out as of this podcast. And, of course, we'll be expanding ourselves into some, Those Guys Play insert game here that we've already done with myself and Tristan Walter and Anthony Sanandris playing, Those Guys Play Star Wars Battlefront. And again, other ones are going to be on the way. So it's going to be very, very fun, very interesting. You can find those on YouTube by searching up Those Guys Play. Search up Those Guys Play. You'll find Those Guys Play Season 1. You'll find Those Guys Play Star Wars Battlefront. And you'll find Matt Beats Games from His Childhood, my own personal series, where Matt, i.e. me, beats games from my i.e. childhood. So, we're, that's what that is. Right now, beating Mega Man X. And you can also get some merchandise based on Matt Beats Games from His Childhood and from Those Guys Play, as I mentioned earlier, on our Cafe Press, cafepress.com/TGOTR merchandise. You can also find our podcasts, which we podcasted about a multitude of things. I mean, we mention anime a lot because we podcast on anime. Myself and Tristan Walter have podcasted on, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball, on Bleach, and on, what other anime? Well, Dragon Ball Super, but and a lot more on the way. Now, also we have our Star Wars Wednesday posts, which we will, try our hardest to do on a weekly basis. Sometimes things happen, but, Star Wars Wednesday posts where myself and Tristan Walter have done a multitude of Star Wars media. I mean, we've done episodes 4, 5, and 6, 1, 2, and 3. We've done the horrifying Christmas/holiday special. And coming up this week, we have Star Wars Droids. Or Star Wars Droids have already come out. Boom! So there's that to look forward to as well. We also have our Anna Saturdays, right? So Anna Saturdays, either it can shift towards either anime or animation in general, depending on whether Steven Universe or an anime podcast come out on that day, whichever one comes out. Or, of course, we have our Dragon Ball Super Saturdays, where if our Dragon Ball Super podcasts come out on a Saturday, what? Boom! That's what that is. Also, we have our Friday night movies, which we will usually have myself and Anthony Sanandris do some random nerd movies. As of right now, they are Marvel/DC, just general comic book movies. But, we will most definitely expand in the future. So you can find these podcasts on our main website, which is thoseguysontheradio.tumblr.com, our Facebook, which is /thoseguysontheradio, our Twitter, which is @thoseguysradio, and our Instagram, which is /thoseguysontheradio. Also, email us at thoseguysontheradio@gmail.com if you want us to promote your product or your service or your show on our show. And, you can also email us if you want us to do a specific show. Oh, hey, I like this anime or this, whatever it might be, and this cartoon, and we'll go, wow, we liked it too, when we were kids, or we still like it, or, we'll check it out, and then we can podcast about it. So, again, email us, thoseguysontheradio@gmail.com. So, I think we're at the end of everything. Well, actually, no, we're not. No, breaking news, update. We have TG News, which we might not, from the looks of it, we won't be having the news this week, sadly, tears running down my face. But we should be picking up the news next week again, where, every Wednesday into Thursday, we have Nerd News. right? Nerd news with a little funny twist. No one saw me do the air quotes on funny, right? It's subjective, Satish. But yeah, with a fun twist. So you can find TG News by going on YouTube and just searching up TG News. And we have the pilot being the first episode, and we have episode 2 as well. Also, you can find our podcasts on YouTube by searching up Those Guys on the Radio. And you will be able to find us on YouTube and on iTunes as well by searching up Those Guys. So, you'll also be able to find our podcasts through there as well. So we want to thank everyone for listening in and wish everyone a good night, safe travels, and keep doing your thing. Keep everything weird. So, anything you want to say before we wrap things up officially?
No, I actually think that we covered everything, to be honest.
Okay, good. All right, so then thank you all for listening in, and say good night, Satish.
Good night, Satish.